This HubSpot bill is insane. It's triple what we budgeted.
Did a sudden surge in CX volume trigger AI auto upgrades?
Exactly. Now we're locked into higher credit costs. Our lean team is sunk.
That's why proactive credit planning is non-negotiable for SMBs.
Right. So welcome to this deep dive on the CRMPosition podcast. We're going straight into the war room today because there is a completely silent, frankly, creeping crisis happening on the balance sheets of small and medium-sized businesses everywhere right now.
It's an absolute landmine.
It really is. And the core tension, I mean, the absolute reality we're dealing with today, is that merely flipping the AI switch on HubSpot transforms what used to be a really predictable, boring sauce bill into a highly volatile consumption risk.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a lean team without strict credit governance.
Yeah, we're effectively witnessing the total death of the turn it on and forget it software mentality. I mean, for the last decade, sauce has been priced like a warm blanket.
Right, a flat rate.
Exactly, a flat utility rate. You buy a seat for your sales rep, you buy a seat for your customer success manager, and they use the software as much or as little as they want.
And finance knows exactly what the hit to the P&L will be on the first of the month, down to the penny.
Down to the penny. But the introduction of this new AI credit economy completely shatters that predictability. And what we are breaking down today is exactly why this usage-based model will literally bankrupt lean customer experience teams if they don't adapt. We're going to build a tactical, step-by-step playbook to survive it.
I really want to spend some time unpacking this shift because, it requires a complete systemic rewiring of how operators think about procurement. I'm looking at this from the perspective of an SMB operator who's used to the old world.
The buffet model.
Exactly. The old software model was basically an all-you-can-eat buffet. You pay your entry fee at the door, your monthly subscription, and you just keep going back for plates of CRM data or email sent as many times as you want.
It didn't matter if you spent 10 hours in the CRM or 10 minutes.
The price was exactly the same. But this new AI credit model, it's entirely different. I mean, it's like check into a luxury hotel and deciding to use the minibar, but the hotel has completely removed all the price tags.
That's a great way to put it.
You don't know what the sparkling water costs until you've already drank it.
Yeah.
You don't know the price of the macadamia nuts until the wrapper is in the trash.
Yeah.
And then the bill is just slipped under your door at 3 a.m.
I like the minibar analogy because it highlights the massive delay between consumption and financial consequence. What we're fundamentally looking at is a shift from simple feature access to a strict usage-based credit economy.
Right.
Think about what HubSpot is actually doing here. They are no longer just selling you a tool or a graphical interface to organize your data. They are selling you raw compute power.
They're renting server space.
They're renting you access to massive server farms running highly complex large language models. And they are passing the variable cost of that compute directly to you. For SMBs, particularly those on starter plans, this hits with brutal force. You aren't eased into this economy. You get hit with the default allocation of merely 500 credits.
Let's just linger on that number for a minute. 500 credits. If you're a founder or an operations manager and you see, 500 credits included, it sounds substantial. It sounds like a decent runway.
That sounds like plenty.
Right. But before we can get to the granular burn rate, I want to bring up the policy attached to that baseline, which is the non-rollover policy. Use it or lose it.
Yeah.
As an operator, I have to say, this feels incredibly hostile. It creates this artificial pressure cooker for lean CX teams. I have to manage my team under this terrible binary choice every single month. I either waste sunk costs by not using my full allocation, which means leaving money on the table, or I force my team to spend frivolously at the end of the month just to zero out the balance.
Well, I wouldn't call it hostile, but it certainly forces a completely different kind of strategic planning. You have to understand why the vendor sets it up this way.
To make more money.
No, look at the infrastructure. They cannot have millions of unused credits sitting as liabilities on their own server infrastructure, just waiting to be called upon years later. The non-rollover policy means you, the operator, can no longer view AI as a passive capability that just sits on the shelf.
So it's an actively managed resource pipeline now.
Exactly. If you have 500 credits and they expire in 30 days, your CX team must proactively forecast exactly which customer interactions, which workflows, will actually yield the highest ROI for that specific cycle.
But if I leave 200 credits on the table, I've paid for computing power. I surrendered. So why wouldn't I just have my marketing coordinator run a bunch of random AI summaries on the 29th of the month to use up the balance? What's the harm?
The harm is that usage is rarely that perfectly calculated. If you rush to spend at the end of the month, you risk crossing the threshold. And the second you cross that threshold, you trigger the auto upgrade.
Okay, which brings us to what I consider the absolute landmine in this entire ecosystem, the default auto upgrade setting.
It's dangerous if you aren't prepared for it.
I am going to aggressively challenge the vendor intent here. When you hit your 500 credit limit, the system doesn't just send an email to the admin saying, hey, you're out of credits, and pause the AI agents. By default, it automatically purchases additional credit packs.
To keep the services running.
Right, but unforeseen peak demands completely bypass human approval. Let's say you run a marketing campaign that goes slightly viral. Or worse, you have an unexpected product outage that floods your live chat with panicked customers.
The AI agent takes over.
It takes over, it burns through your 500 credits in an hour, and then it just keeps buying more. It triggers immediate massive billing spikes. I have to ask, is this honestly a feature designed for uninterrupted service? Or is this just a trap for lean teams who don't read the fine print?
From an engineering and systems architecture standpoint, it is entirely designed for continuity. Yes. Put yourself in the shoes of a CX leader for a second. If you have an AI customer agent handling Tier 1 support on your website and it hits a hard credit wall right in the middle of a major product outage, what actually happens?
The chat stops working.
Worse, if the system shuts off the AI to save you $50, all of that chat volume instantly routes to your human agents. If you have a lean team of 3 people and they are suddenly hit with 400 concurrent angry chats because the AI was hard stopped,
Your entire customer experience completely collapses.
exactly. Your human team burns out, response times drop to 0, and your CSAT tanks. The auto upgrade exists to prevent operational failure.
Okay, I see the continuity argument. I do. But what about the financial governance standpoint? Because if you are the finance director, this is a massive vulnerability. It completely removes the friction of financial approval.
It does.
Finance assumes the SaaS bill is fixed, but this auto upgrade turns the CRM into a variable cost center tied directly to customer behavior. And customer behavior is entirely outside of your control.
That is the crux of the issue. You are essentially handing the company credit card to the general public.
Exactly.
But let's look at the brutal math of the credit burn rates, because this is where the continuity argument really starts to strain for smaller businesses. We need to get incredibly granular here. The documentation shows that the customer agent consumes 100 credits per conversation,
Okay.
and the prospecting agent burns between 10 to 100 credits per action.
Wait, let me stop you right there. Let me just run that math out loud. If an SMB is on a starter plan with 500 credits and the customer agent costs 100 credits per conversation, we might only get 5 e-customer conversations.
That's right.
5. That's a rounding error. That's not an operational strategy. That's a tech demo. How on earth is a business supposed to run a support desk on 5 conversations a month?
They aren't. And that is exactly the point operators need to understand. Merely flipping the switch on a baseline plan is a fast path to failure.
It's totally useless at that volume.
5 conversations means the base allocation is not designed to run your support desk. It's designed to introduce you to the mechanics of the agent. To actually deploy this at scale, you have to purchase substantial recurring credit packs. But we need to explain why it costs 100 credits per conversation.
Yes, please explain this like I'm 5. Because if I go to ChatGPT right now and type in a prompt, it feels instantaneous and virtually free. Why is a CRM agent costing me such a premium?
Because an integrated AI customer agent isn't just sending a canned response or answering a trivia question, it is doing something called maintaining state.
Maintaining state.
Yes. When a customer chats in, the AI has to query your CRM database in real time to understand exactly who this person is. What is their purchase history? Are they a VIP account? Then it has to read the customer's initial question. Then it has to dip into your proprietary knowledge base, scan dozens of articles, find the relevant technical solution, and synthesize that into a conversational response via an LLM.
So it's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
A massive amount. And then, and this is crucial, it has to log that entire interaction back to the contact record in the CRM so your human agents have total visibility. Every single one of those steps requires secure compute power. It's firing API calls across different databases continuously.
So it's not just a chat widget.
Not at all. That is computationally expensive, and the vendor is passing that raw expense directly to you.
Okay, so the SMB is fundamentally funding the API calls. But there's another layer to this, right? A hidden foundational cost that we absolutely have to call out: plan tier gatekeeping.
Yes, this catches a lot of people off guard.
Because if I'm an SMB listening to this, I might think, okay, the math makes sense. I understand compute is expensive. I'll just stay on my $20 starter plan and buy $500 worth of AI credits to handle my volume. But you can't actually do that, can you?
No, you cannot. And this is where the financial model gets very aggressive. SMBs are often locked out of the advanced tools entirely, specifically the customer agent or predictive analytics, until they upgrade their core subscription to the professional or enterprise tiers.
That forces a massive dual-front capital expenditure. You are essentially multiplying your base software cost by 10 just to get to the tier that allows you to buy the credits you actually need to run the AI.
Exactly.
You have to pay an exorbitant cover charge just to get into the room where they sell the expensive drinks.
That gatekeeping fundamentally alters the ROI timeline for an SMB. You are no longer just calculating the cost of the AI credits against a human hourly wage. You have to amortize the massive cost of the professional or enterprise tier upgrade across those AI interactions.
Right. The true cost per interaction for the first few months is astronomical.
It is. This requires a level of operational maturity that most ad hoc SMB teams simply do not have. What usually happens is they look at the feature list, they get hyped up by the marketing, they convince the founder to upgrade the tier, they turn the AI on, and they burn through the baseline credits in a single afternoon.
Then the auto upgrade hits.
And suddenly, a CRM expense that used to be a highly predictable $50 a month is running at $1,500 a month.
So we've established that the math is terrifying, and the baseline allocations are basically just a pace test. But surely this is just a theoretical risk. Are companies actually blowing their budgets on this right now?
Oh, it's not theoretical at all. Let me walk you through the incident reports we analyzed from the field, because they paint a very clear, very painful picture of what happens when a team's operational maturity doesn't match their deployment strategy.
Let's get into App 2 then, the war room scenarios. We have 3 real incident reports, and I really want to dissect exactly how these lean CX teams ended up deep in the red. Scenario A is what the research calls uncontrolled credit burn, or the viral disaster. Set the stage for me here.
Okay, we have a lean CX team, maybe 2 or 3 human agents handling all customer support for a mid-size e-commerce brand. They upgrade their tier and they turn on the customer agent for live chat on their homepage.
Okay.
But they do not set usage limits in the HubSpot portal.
Let me guess. Because they don't even know where the toggle for usage limits is.
Exactly. Or they just assume the system will warn them before it spends real money. Now, the live chat widget is exposed to the public internet, which means your internal credit consumption is now entirely dictated by external actors.
Like anyone with a keyboard.
Right. Then a sudden influx of queries hits. It doesn't even have to be a major crisis. Maybe a TikTok featuring their product goes unexpectedly viral, or maybe there's a localized shipping delay with a major carrier that affects a few hundred orders.
Walk me through the exact mechanics of the cascade failure. What does the dashboard look like while this is happening?
The terrifying part is that the cascade failure is instantaneous and completely silent. The routine queries start hitting the live chat. Where is my order? What are your business hours? You ship to Canada?
And the customer agent engages with every single one.
Every single one. Remember, at 100 credits per conversation, a baseline of 500 or even 5,000 credits is exhausted in a matter of minutes during a traffic spike. Because that auto upgrade is toggled on by default, the system recognizes the depleted balance and automatically purchases the next credit tier. Unbelievable. But the web traffic hasn't stopped, so it burns through that new pack, it upgrades again. And again.
I am trying to wrap my head around this. If I'm a founder paying for a CRM, I assume the chat widget is just a chat widget. Are you telling me that people asking, what are your business hours in my live chat could literally bankrupt my marketing budget for the entire quarter?
Yes. Because you aren't paying for a chat widget anymore. You are paying for an AI to retrieve information and maintain state for every single one of those users simultaneously.
Meanwhile, the CX team is probably sitting in the office celebrating.
They usually are. They are watching the dashboard, seeing hundreds of queries being resolved instantly without human intervention. They think they have achieved operational nirvana. They are completely unaware that the AI is running up a massive variable bill in the background.
See, I used to think of this like leaving a fire hydrant open, but that's not quite right. Water just flows. This is much more deliberate. It's like giving the company credit card to a highly motivated intern and telling them to buy whatever office supplies they think we need to keep the team productive, but you don't check the receipts until the end of the quarter.
That's a very accurate comparison.
The AI is the intern, and it thinks we need solid gold staplers for every single customer who walks through the door. There is zero feedback loop between the consumption of the resource and the financial penalty of that consumption.
That lack of a feedback loop is the fatal flaw. In a lean operation, that end-of-month invoice doesn't just sting. It can wipe out the operational budget for the entire next quarter. Which brings us to the second incident report. Scenario B, the beta trap overages.
Oh, this one.
This one is incredibly insidious because it starts with the vendor offering something for free.
Let's break this down. A promising new beta AI feature is released. Let's say it's an advanced content generation tool that writes highly personalized email sequences based on a prospect's LinkedIn data. It's heavily promoted, and most importantly, it is completely free to use while it's in beta.
Right. And the SMB operator leans in. They realize this tool saves their sales reps hours of work every week. They build permanent workflows around it. It becomes a load-bearing pillar of their daily operations.
Then what happens?
Then, with minimal internal communication and only about 30 days notice from the vendor, the feature flips from free to a strict credit-consuming model.
And 30 days is incredibly aggressive for a financial pivot of that magnitude. I mean, if I have a lean team, 30 days is barely enough time to schedule a meeting to discuss the release notes, let alone rebuild our entire outbound sales sequence.
I agree 30 days is aggressive, but we need to talk about why this happens and what the root failure is here.
The root failure is the vendor giving no notice.
Actually, the root failure isn't the vendor's short notice. The root failure is the SMB's lack of agile vendor monitoring and a fundamental misunderstanding of what a beta feature actually is in the AI era.
What do you mean?
When a vendor puts an AI tool in beta, they are subsidizing the massive compute cost because your usage is training their models. You are paying them in data and edge case discovery.
Oh, wow.
The second that tool hits general availability, or GA, the transaction flips. You aren't providing novel training data anymore, so they pass the raw compute cost straight back to you.
So the failure is that SMBs treat beta features like permanent free gifts rather than subsidized loans that will eventually come due.
Exactly. When you adopt a beta feature, you are adopting a temporary subsidized state. You have to actively model what that feature will cost when it goes to GA. In this scenario, the SMB integrated a free tool into a high-volume automated process without any contingency plan. When the flip happened, every single automated email that went out suddenly started burning credits.
But the operational whiplash of this is maddening. How can a lean team budget for a moving target? You're telling me I have to assign a dedicated person just to monitor HubSpot's product release notes to ensure my existing, fully functioning tech stack doesn't suddenly start costing me thousands of dollars overnight.
Yes, that is exactly what the new paradigm demands. When you operate in a usage-based AI economy, vendor release notes are not marketing material. They are critical financial forecasts. If you ignore them, you trigger expected overages because you are operating on outdated assumptions about what compute is subsidized by the vendor and what is billed to your P&L.
That is a harsh reality. But let's look at scenario C, which might be the most frustrating one we're going to talk about today because it is entirely a self-inflicted wound. Data quality, credit waste, and misaligned sprawl.
This one is very common.
This scenario details two compounding internal failures within a single SMB. First, you have a growth manager using a tool like Breeze Intelligence to enrich a CRM full of duplicates, old contacts, and incomplete data. I have to pause right here and push back on this practice immediately. For the operations folks listening who might just think of enrichment as a magic button that makes your data better, what is physically happening in the background?
When you hit that enrichment button, the AI is firing off highly complex API calls to external data providers, scraping public records, and cross-referencing company domains.
And we are literally paying an AI a premium compute tax to read and organize our garbage.
That is exactly what you're doing. And AI is devastatingly efficient at processing garbage, which means it will burn through your credits at maximum speed to tell you absolutely nothing of value.
Right.
Let's look at the actual mechanics. If you have 3 duplicate records for the same client because your sales reps are lazy and don't check before creating a new contact, the AI doesn't know they are duplicates. It will consume credits to enrich all 3 independently.
It just does what it's told.
Exactly. If you have a list of 10,000 dead email addresses from a trade show 5 years ago, it will happily consume credits trying to append data to every single one of them. The AI does not understand the business context of your poor data hygiene. It only executes the enrichment command you gave it.
So you are paying a heavy compute tax on your own operational laziness.
Correct. But the second part of scenario C makes it even worse. Misaligned automation sprawl. Imagine a marketing coordinator who just discovered the AI tools.
Uh-oh.
They start setting up tiny, unoptimized AI workflows across different microsegments. An AI email subject line generator here, an AI meeting summary tool there, an AI sentiment analysis on incoming support tickets.
But each one only uses a few credits, right? So the coordinator thinks it's completely harmless.
Individually, yes, they use a few credits, but
Yeah.
collectively, they bleed the shared finite credit pool dry. They starve the truly critical functions. This is a classic failure of centralized oversight.
Right, because nobody's watching the aggregate spend.
Exactly. In a flat-rate SaaS model, automation sprawl is just a messy portal that an admin has to clean up eventually. In a credit economy, automation sprawl is a direct financial leak. It's death by 1,000 one-credit cuts. When the customer service lead actually needs the customer agent to handle a critical spike in support tickets, the shared credit pool is completely empty because the marketing team burned it all, generating subject lines for a newsletter that goes to 50 people.
Okay, the bleeding is everywhere. The viral spikes are bankrupting us. The beta flips are catching us completely off guard, and our own garbage data is taxing us. If I'm an operator listening to this, I'm panicking. I want to turn it all off. How do we actually stop the bleeding and lock this down without just reverting to the Stone Age?
You have to implement strict governance.
Right. And the research outlines a 5-step operational playbook to do exactly that. We need to break this down deeply for the operators who need to implement this tomorrow morning. Step 1. Appoint credit stewards. You need a mini governance model. Someone must actively monitor usage, set hard system alerts, and approve AI-driven actions. But let's debate the reality of this. In a lean SMB, who is this actually going to be? You can't just hire a dedicated chief AI compliance officer on a startup budget. Does this fall to the RevOps manager, or does the 24-year-old marketing coordinator have to handle the day-to-day monitoring so it doesn't fall through the cracks?
It absolutely cannot be a passive assignment given to a junior coordinator, because a junior coordinator does not have the political capital to enforce the rules. The credit steward must be someone whose own key performance indicators, their KPIs, are directly tied to customer acquisition cost or overall cost to serve. Often, this defaults to a RevOps manager or a senior growth lead.
Wait, why can't the coordinator do it? They're the ones actually in the portal all day anyway.
Because of office politics. If the VP of sales demands to turn on a new AI prospecting tool that will burn 2,000 credits a week, the 24-year-old coordinator does not have the authority to tell the VP of sales no.
That's a good point.
The credit steward must have the absolute authority to veto leadership if the math doesn't make sense. They must log into the portal daily, look at the burn down chart, and enforce hard system alerts. You have 5,000 credits for the month. You need a hard system alert at 50%, 75%, and 90%. But more importantly, the steward must calculate the projected credit burn before any new workflow goes live.
Which naturally introduces the need for step 2, map and enforce strict decision rights. We have a massive structural problem here if we don't map this out. Because as we've just established, without a map, everyone spends, nobody is responsible, and the junior staff just gets blamed.
Exactly.
Let's break down the API accountability map for this new economy. The accountable party is the SMB owner or founder. They hold the ultimate budget approval and ROI responsibility. The responsible party is the customer service lead, overseeing agent consumption to align with CX goals.
Right. The CS lead is responsible for the efficiency of the spend. They are the ones dictating what types of questions the AI is even allowed to handle. Then you have a consultant party, the HubSpot admin or ops manager. Do not overlook this role.
They seem like the most important piece.
They are crucial. They are the ones who physically go into the system, turn off the auto upgrades, set the alert thresholds, and handle the technical setup. They are the mechanism that translates the founder's financial mandate into rigid system constraints.
And finally, the informed parties, the sales team lead and finance. Sales needs to know if their prospecting agent is suddenly going to be paused on the 26th of the month due to credit limits. And finance obviously needs to know what the variable bill is going to be so they don't have a heart attack.
Let me be clear. If you are an ops manager listening to this and you do not formally map these exact roles in a document today, you will default back to scenario C, misaligned sprawl.
Everyone will just assume someone else is watching it.
Yes. The admin will leave the auto upgrade on because they assume the founder wants continuity above all else. The founder will assume the admin is actively capping costs. The CS lead will assume credits are unlimited because nobody told them otherwise. The decision rights map completely eliminates the ambiguity that leads to overages.
Moving to step 3. Mandate pre-flight data hygiene. We talked earlier about paying AI a premium to read garbage. In this playbook, you are connecting data cleanliness directly to the balance sheet. Clean, contextual CRM data is the only way to prevent wasted credits on poor inputs.
It's mandatory.
We have to shift the internal mindset here. Data hygiene is no longer just a best practice that ops people complain about at the end of the month. It is active, aggressive cost containment.
It is the ultimate firewall against wasted spend. Before you deploy an AI customer agent, you must run deduplication across your entire database. You must archive dead contacts. You must standardize your data formatting. Let me explain the hallucination tax.
Those hallucination tax.
Yes. If your internal knowledge base is full of contradictory, outdated articles, say, an old return policy from 2022 and a new one from 2024, the customer agent will read both. It will burn 100 credits to synthesize an answer, and because the data is bad, it will hallucinate an incorrect answer to your customer.
I've literally seen this happen. It tells the customer they have 60 days to return an item, but the real policy is 30 days.
Exactly. And what happens next? The customer gets angry, demands to speak to a manager, and now a human agent has to intervene, spend 20 minutes calming the customer down, and honor the incorrect 60-day policy because the AI promised it.
So you get hit 3 times.
You paid a credit premium for the AI to fail, you paid the human hourly rate for the recovery, and you lost margin on the return. Pre-flight hygiene ensures that when you spend those 100 credits, the AI has the exact structured single source of truth context it needs to resolve the query perfectly on the first touch.
If I am the ops manager, I am taking this exact argument to the sales director who refuses to make his reps clean up their pipelines. I'm telling them, your messy data is literally stealing from our marketing budget. That brings us to step 4. Shift metrics to credit efficiency.
This is where we change the math.
Lean CX teams must evolve beyond traditional metrics. We all know average handle time or CSAT, but we are introducing a new metric today, cost per AI interaction. Let's debate the efficiency arbitrage here. We know AI agents are cheaper than human agents for high-volume, repetitive queries, but that is only true if the credit costs are meticulously managed and measured against human hourly rates.
This is the core financial equation every SMB must run before turning these tools on. Let's do the math out loud. Let's say a junior human agent costs you $25 an hour fully loaded, and they can handle 5 routine password reset or order status chats in that hour. Your human cost per resolution is $5.
Okay, $5 a ticket.
Now look at the AI. If the AI customer agent burns 100 credits to resolve that exact same chat, and you are buying bulk credit packs that equate to roughly 10 cents per 100 credits, your AI cost per resolution is 10 cents.
Wow. That is a massive efficiency arbitrage. You are saving $4.90 per interaction. Multiply that by thousands of interactions a month, and the ROI is totally undeniable.
It is undeniable if the AI actually resolves the ticket, but cost per AI interaction must constantly be paired with your AI resolution rate.
Right, because if the AI is deployed on a highly complex, nuanced query that it cannot actually resolve, let's say a custom enterprise billing dispute,
Okay.
it still burns the 100 credits attempting to answer it.
It burns the compute whether it succeeds or fails.
It fails, routes it to a human who then takes 30 minutes to read the chat transcript and figure out what the AI messed up, and your cost per resolution just skyrocketed. You paid the 10 cents plus $12.50 of human time, plus the negative impact on customer satisfaction.
Exactly. You are losing the arbitrage. The playbook requires you to meticulously monitor which types of queries are credit efficient and use routing rules to funnel only those specific, highly resolvable queries to the AI. Everything else must bypass the AI and go straight to the human to save credits.
Which perfectly sets up the final step, step 5, execute resource reallocation. This is the structural payoff of everything we've talked about today. If the AI is successfully handling 40% of the repetitive tasks, what do the humans do?
They cannot do nothing.
Exactly. The internal pressure from this finite credit system must force SMBs to shift human capital. If you don't shift your humans to higher value, proactive CX improvements, you cannot justify the AI spend to the founder. You just added a massive variable software cost without reducing your payroll.
This is where most SMBs completely fail the maturity test. They view AI purely as a defensive cost-cutting measure, a way to avoid hiring the next support rep rather than an offensive strategy to elevate the current support reps. If your AI is handling 40% of Tier 1 tickets, your human agents now have 40% of their day back. Right. If management just lets them use that time to browse the internet or take longer lunches, the AI deployment was a catastrophic financial loss.
So what exactly should they be doing? Give me some concrete examples of reallocation.
You must purposefully reallocate that newly freed human time. Those humans should be doing proactive, high-touch outreach to high-churn risk accounts. They should be conducting personalized onboarding calls for VIP clients.
Building relationships.
Exactly. Or they should be auditing and building out the internal knowledge base so that AI becomes even more efficient next month. The human capital must be actively deployed to generate measurable revenue or secure measurable retention to offset the consumption cost of the AI. If you aren't doing that, you are just bleeding cash from two different arteries.
We are reaching the end of the War Room session today, and I have to ask the controversial question point blank. When I look at everything we've debated, the restrictive 500 credit limits, the auto upgrades that default to on, the pro-tier gatekeeping that forces expensive upgrades, the aggressive 30-day beta flips, is HubSpot just squeezing small businesses for cash with a convoluted credit system? Is this just a cash grab?
The research points to a very uncomfortable truth for operators who like to move fast and break things. HubSpot's AI credit economy is not just a billing mechanism. It is a deliberate, engineered mechanism to force SMBs into a higher tier of operational maturity.
So it's intentional.
It intentionally creates friction. It actively penalizes ad hoc, lazy experimentation.
They are acting like a strict parent.
Essentially, yes. The platform is effectively saying to the market, if you want to use enterprise-grade AI tools, you must adopt enterprise-grade governance to manage them. They are intentionally accelerating the churn of undisciplined customers who refuse to adopt a usage-based mindset.
But why risk churning customers?
Because undisciplined AI usage people running infinite loops of garbage data through LLM strains HubSpot's own server infrastructure, it is tough love administered directly via the P&L. If you can't manage your credits, they don't want you congesting the system.
That is a brutal, sobering reality check. If you want to play with the big tools, you have to manage your budget like a big, mature team. To ensure you don't get caught in the trap we've outlined today, here are 3 concrete, immediate next actions for you to take the second this deep dive ends. Listen closely. Number 1, log into your HubSpot portal settings today, right now, and audit your auto upgrade versus pay-as-you-go toggles. You must know what your default state is before a crisis hits.
Absolutely critical.
Number 2, map every single currently active beta AI feature your team is using across marketing, sales, and service, and assign your newly appointed credit steward to track its pricing transition timeline. And number 3, establish a baseline cost per action for your top 3 repetitive CX tasks today, using your human hourly rates so you have a rigid benchmark to compare against the AI credit burn rates tomorrow.
I cannot stress this enough. Executing those 3 steps today will immediately stop the silent bleeding in your portal and give you total visibility into your actual financial exposure.
To stay ahead of real CRM and AI platform shifts exactly like this one, you need to subscribe to the CRMPosition podcast. This is not the place for marketing hype, and we do not blindly repeat vendor narratives. This is where operations professionals come to hear complex, dangerous operational realities broken down into tactical, actionable playbooks. We give you the true, unvarnished state-of-the-art so you can protect your operations, defend your budget, and lead your team through this transition. Hit subscribe on your podcast app today.
The landscape is fundamentally shifting from fixed access to variable consumption. The operators who understand that math and build the governance will be the ones who survive the transition.
I'm going to leave you with one final, uncomfortable thought to mull over as you go back to work and look at your own tech stack. If your company's AI budget triples next month due to an unchecked automation workflow that went viral, who gets fired? The AI or the person who left the auto upgrade on?